There is financial advice being passed around right now by parents, by teachers, by people who genuinely want to help you that is keeping millions of people broke. Not bad people, not bad intentions, bad advice. And the dangerous part is it sounds responsible, it sounds smart, it sounds like exactly what a financially disciplined person would do. That's what makes it so hard to talk about and something that I may get some hate for. I've spent a decade building businesses and investing. And the more I learned about money and the more I built that relationship with money, the more I realized that the conventional financial wisdom that most people grew up with is not only outdated, in some cases it's the direct reason people never build real wealth. In this video, I'm going to break down 5 pieces of conventional advice that sounds right, but they are actually working against you. And I'm going to give you a replacement framework for each one. Stay with me because the last one is the most dangerous and the one that almost nobody questions. And before we get into this list, I want to establish something first. Something that reframes how you think about financial advice entirely, because the problem isn't just the advice itself. It's the system the advice was designed for, and that system no longer exists. Quick disclaimer, none of this is financial advice. I'm just a random guy on YouTube with the mic. So always do your own research before you invest. And hey, this video took a ton of work to put together. If you find any value, please hit the like button. It helps me more than you know. Most of the financial advice circulating today was built for a different era. Go to school, get a job, save 10% of your paycheck, buy a house, contribute to your pension, retire at 65. That was the complete functional system for 1975. In 1975, a single income could support a family, pensions were standard, a savings account at the bank actually had meaningful interest, the cost of housing, education, and healthcare relative to income was manageable. That world is gone. Today, the average American needs 2 incomes to afford a medium-priced home. Pensions have been replaced by 401ks that employees fund themselves. A standard savings account pays 0.01% interest, and the cost of education has increased over 1,000% since 1980. The rules changed, the advice didn't. And that gap between the world the advice was designed for and the world we actually live in is exactly where the wealth goes to die. So when someone gives you financial advice, ask one question before you follow it. What world was the advice designed for? Because if the answer is a world that no longer exists, the advice is costing you money. So bad advice number 1 is save your money. This is the one everyone's parents said. My parents said it as well. Put money in a savings account, build up your savings, and be responsible. And saving is not wrong. Having an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses in a high yield savings account is a non-negotiable. That part is correct. The problem is when saving becomes the strategy instead of the foundation. Here's what actually happens to money sitting in a standard savings account at a big bank like a Chase or Wells Fargo. It earns approximately 0.01% interest annually. If you don't believe me, go look it up. On $10,000, that's $1 a year. Meanwhile, inflation is running 3 to 4% annually in a normal environment, which means every year that your money sits in that account, it's losing its purchasing power. It's losing value. Saving money in a low interest account is not building wealth. It is slowly losing wealth at a rate that feels invisible until you look back 10 years later and realize your purchasing power has been cut in half. The replacement, save for your emergency fund, then invest everything above that threshold. A high yield savings account for your emergency fund currently paying 4% interest, and a broad market index fund for everything else. Money that isn't working is money that's dying. Put it to work. Bad advice number 2, avoid debt at all costs. Now, this sounds responsible. It feels responsible, and for certain types of debt, it's completely correct. Credit card debt at 24%, eliminate it immediately. Same with personal loans. Any debt costing you more than 10% annually, pay it off aggressively. That part of the advice is correct, but the blanket statement, avoid debt, is one of the most wealth limiting beliefs in personal finance. When I was building my business, getting a business loan was the one thing that was able to 10x my business. I remember being so scared to get a loan because I was being worried about the debt, what the economy would be like in the next year, and just having to owe so much money. I think it was like $50,000 loan at the time. Just the thought of owing that back scared me a little bit in that moment. But that taught me that not all debt is the same. A mortgage at 6% on a property that appreciates 4 to 5% annually and builds equity every month, that is not bad debt. That is a wealth building tool. A business loan at 7% that funds a venture generating 30% returns, that is not bad debt. That is leverage. A student loan at 4% while you invest consistently in the market, returning 10% annually, mathematically, you are better off carrying that debt and investing alongside of it. And you may get a job that pays better and increases your ability to earn more. Wealthy people do not avoid debt. They understand the difference between debt that costs them money and debt that makes them money. They use leverage strategically to accelerate wealth building, not avoid it out of fear. The replacement. Categorize every debt by its interest rate. If you have a lot of debt from different sources, make a list. Above 10%, eliminate it. Below 10%, evaluate whether the capital is better deployed investing. Stop treating all debt as bad. Start paying down your high interest debt and start using low interest debt as a tool. Bad advice number 3 is don't talk about money. This one is cultural and it runs deep. Trust me, I know. In most households, money is not discussed. Salaries are private, investments are personal, financial struggles are kept quiet, and children grow up with zero financial education because the adults around them were taught that money is not a topic for the dinner table. The result is an entire generation of adults making major financial decisions, mortgages, investments, retirement accounts, insurance, with no framework, no education, and no one to learn from. Meanwhile, wealthy families talk about money constantly. They discuss investments at dinner. They teach their children about compound interest, asset allocation, and tax strategies before the children are old enough to drive. They pass down financial literacy the same way other families pass down recipes. The silence around money is not humility. The replacement, talk about money, learn about money, ask questions, find mentors, watch videos like this, read books. The information is available. The barrier is the cultural belief is that money is somehow inappropriate to discuss openly. I get it. Don't talk to strangers or go to parties and talk about how much money you make. But if you find others that manage money well around you, it only helps you to start asking questions and finding out how to become better with your money. Your financial education is your responsibility, and the cost of ignorance is paid in decades of lost compound growth. Let that sit in. Bad advice number 4. Your home is your best investment. Okay, this is where I'm gonna get some hate, but this one is deeply embedded in American financial identity. Home ownership is the cornerstone of wealth building. I have a home, the one I'm in now, and I'm glad I bought it. And owning a home is not wrong. Building equity is a real thing. Appreciation is real. A forced savings mechanism of a mortgage payment is also real. But calling your primary residence your best investment is a misunderstanding of what an investment actually is. If you paid 30 years of payments on that home, you would have paid 2 to 3 times the amount of what you bought it for in the end. An investment generates income or appreciates in value while you hold it. Your primary residence does appreciate historically around 3 to 4% annually on average, but it also costs you money every single year to own it. Property taxes, maintenance, insurance, HOA fees, renovations. The true cost of home ownership is significantly higher than the mortgage payment alone. If you compare that to the S&P 500, returning an average of 10% annually over the last century, no maintenance costs, no property taxes, no roof replacements, the people who put every available dollar into their home, paying it off aggressively, doing the renovations, treating it as their primary wealth vehicle while neglecting their investment portfolio, are making a mathematically expensive decision. The replacement is own a home if it makes sense for your life and your market. Right now, the home prices are still sitting near their highest and interest rates are 5 to 6%, so it may or may not make sense for you. If it does, build equity, but do not let your primary residence crowd out your investment portfolio. The house you live in is not a wealth building machine. A diversified investment portfolio is. If you have a bunch of rental properties, that'll work as well, but do not just rely on your primary residence. Bad advice number 5, get a stable job and work hard. This is the most dangerous one, and one that nobody questions because it comes from the people who loves you the most. Get a job, work hard, be loyal to that company, put in the hours, and that company will take care of you. That was true in the 1970s. It has not been true for a long time. Here's what a stable job actually provides in 2026. A fixed income that increases roughly 3% a year, roughly in line of inflation. A 401k that you fund yourself, health insurance with premiums that increase every year, and zero ownership stake in the value that you create for that company. You can work hard for 40 years at a stable job and retire with exactly enough to survive if you're disciplined. That is the ceiling of a stable job strategy, but that's being average. And this video is about not being average. We want to be exceptional in the 1%. Wealth is not built through income alone. Wealth is built through ownership. Ownership of assets, ownership of investments, ownership of businesses, things that generate returns while you sleep, not while you work. The highest paid employees in the world are still trading time for money. The wealthiest people in the world own things that generate money independent of their time. This does not mean go quit your job tomorrow. Your income is the fuel that funds your investments. A stable income is a powerful tool. When it is used to acquire assets, not just cover expenses. The replacement, keep the job, use the income, but treat your salary as raw material, not the destination. Every paycheck is an opportunity to acquire assets that will eventually generate income independent of your labor. Build that portfolio alongside the career. Start with a side hustle or a business after work, not instead of it, not after it, alongside it from day one. Let me give you the replacement framework. Bad advice, save your money. Replacement, save your emergency fund in a high yield savings account, invest everything above it. Bad advice number 2 is avoid debt at all costs. The replacement, eliminate high interest debt. Use low interest debt as a tool. Bad advice number 3, don't talk about money. Replacement, talk about money. Make financial education a daily habit. Talk about it, learn about it, execute what you've learned. Bad advice number 4, I think, your home is your best investment. Replacement, own a home if it makes sense, but build your investment portfolio or invest in general in yourself. Start a business or a side hustle parallel to it. Don't rely on your primary residence. Bad advice number 5, get a stable job and work hard. Replacement, use your income in that job to acquire assets. Build ownership. Create income that doesn't require your time. 5 replacements, all of them actionable, all of them executable starting today. The advice that keeps people poor is not malicious. It comes from the parents who wanted stability for their children, from teachers working with outdated curriculums, from a generation that played by the rules that no longer apply. But no one tells you vet the source. Before you take financial advice from anyone, ask one question. Are they actually wealthy? Do they invest? Do they own a business? Do they have real estate portfolio or a 7-figure investment account? Because there's a massive difference between someone who has built wealth and someone who's just repeating what they have heard someone else say. One of those people has skin in the game, the other has opinions. Most of the advice keeping people broke comes from people who are also broke, but confident. Good intentions do not pay the bills, and following advice designed for a world that no longer exists does not build wealth in a world that we actually live in. The people who build real wealth are not smarter. They are not luckier. They aren't working harder. They are operating with a different set of rules. Now you have those rules. The only question left is whether you keep following advice that everyone else follows, or do you start doing what actually works and makes sense. Don't be average. My name is Ron. Once again, I appreciate the time and support. Drop a fire emoji if you're still watching. Like and subscribe. Hype this video if you see that option. And send this to someone who needs to hear this. And watch this video next. Thanks for watching.